My name is Sheila Corona. Welcome to Sassy Seer Sheila and New Light Streaming Love, as this will be seen on both channels. This is Uranus in Gemini. The air era is here. Now what? By AstroButterfly. And I am not always guided to record and share her work. And I'm just reading this for the first time for myself. And so if you are like me, an astrology enthusiast, I highly recommend that you go to astrobutterfly.com. I will have a link in the show more section, the description section of this video, and sign up for her weekly newsletter. It costs absolutely nothing to you. And however, I have to say, I just adore the way she writes. It's very down to earth, it's very understandable. And if you are at all interested in learning astrology, I do know she also offers webinars and seminars and classes and all sorts of things. So I highly recommend that you go and take a look at what she's got going on over there. So again, this is Uranus in Gemini. The air era is here. Now what? On April 26th, 2026, Uranus enters Gemini. Uranus only changes signs every 7 years, so this is big. The internet is already full of predictions. AI will take over everything, communication will be revolutionized, and the world will move faster than we can keep up with. And quite frankly, I feel like that's already happening. So, as far as the faster than we can keep up with part. But understanding, pardon me, how Uranus in Gemini influences us goes beyond, quote, innovation and Gemini equals, wait a minute. But understanding how Uranus and Gemini influences us goes beyond innovation and Gemini to equal AI online learning and drones. Let's look at Uranus in Taurus 7-year chapter that we are just leaving behind to understand how Uranus really operates. Uranus and Taurus recap. Uranus entered Taurus in 2018. Back then, everyone predicted Uranus would completely transform the financial system, that everything would digitize, that cryptocurrencies would replace global currencies, and so on. Now it's 2026. We're at the very end of the transit, and your morning coffee is still not being paid for in Bitcoin. In fact, the asset that saw the highest growth during Uranus in Taurus was gold, the boring safe haven everyone had written off. The irony is that Uranus, the planet of innovation and disruption, in Taurus, the sign of material resources and tradition, ended up rewarding the oldest form of money, not the newest. Has the financial system been disrupted? To an extent, but not necessarily in the ways we imagined. If anything, we could argue that financial markets have become more immune to volatility, responding in less dramatic ways to economic shocks, world events, or geopolitical moves. Uranus in Taurus simply didn't seem to, quote, care that much about what happened in the world. The financial system kept moving to its own internal rhythm. So, what does this tell us about how Uranus actually operates? Uranus' role is not to impose the quote new, but to stress test existing systems. So so that what's genuinely solid survives, and what's built on narrative or speculation gets exposed. Uranus doesn't necessarily bring the future people imagine. It dismantles the fantasies people project onto the future. The crypto bet was a narrative about escaping old power structures. Uranus and Taurus I have a whole different take on that whole thing, but it has nothing to do with astrology. Uranus, so I'm sorry, I shouldn't have interrupted that with that. Uranus and Taurus may have simply shown us that we can't Uranus our way out of Taurus realities. Matter, time, and accumulated value still win. Honestly, you are the value. Don't forget that. No matter what the system tries to sell you. Uranus comes, shuffles things around, creates chaos, and in doing so makes us aware that change is the only constant in life. And as a result of this awareness, we become more resilient and better equipped to withstand volatility and crisis. Many people who lost their jobs during COVID retrained, pivoted, or started their own businesses. In many ways, Uranus and Taurus pushed us to become more self-reliant, and with that came more freedom than before. Not without friction, not without stress, and for many of us, things still don't look good. But overall, society is now more resourceful. Now that people have given up on the idea that, quote, I'll retire and live on my state pension, they have started building more options and more security on their own terms. So, the question we're really trying to answer when we look at a Uranus transit is not what kind of innovations or progress Uranus will deliver. Uranus doesn't care for innovation for the sake of innovation. Uranus is not here to bring tech to Earth. The fundamental role Uranus plays is to help us shed what's outdated so we can live more freely, more authentically, and more aligned with what's real. And that's sometimes what we call progress or innovation. While it might solve some of our problems, can pretty much create new ones. Uranus and progress, something is gained, something is lost. Uranus is almost synonymous with the word progress. Progress is good because it solves problems and limitations. We only call something progress if it helps us move beyond something that is not working as it should. But progress doesn't come without trade-offs. Electricity gave us light at night, but it also disconnected us from nature's rhythms. We no longer wake with the sunrise. We now need alarm clocks. The smartphone put the whole world at our fingertips, but it also brought more isolation, less connection, and shorter attention spans. Isn't that true? With progress, we win something, we lose something. Yes, AI agents will take over our repetitive, daunting tasks. Robots will do the cleaning instead of us. This is freeing, right? But it also means we will no longer touch the earth, scrub the floors, and engage with the world in the way that keeps us grounded and present in our bodies. That part of us that rejoices in the senses, in the physical experience of actually touching, maneuvering, interacting with the 3D world, will miss something under Uranus. Because progress is not just machines doing work for us. It changes our everyday lives and shifts our priorities. Something is found, something is lost, and things are never the same. In the quote, Wizard of Oz, the Tin Man longed for one thing, a heart. The antidote to Uranus detachment and alienation is to remember why we create in the first place. To feel, to connect, and to be alive. The new air era, Uranus in Gemini, Pluto in Aquarius. The new air era started back in 2020 when Jupiter and Saturn conjuncted at 0 degrees Aquarius, starting a new 200-year air cycle. This air era has accelerated rapidly since 2023-2024, when Pluto entered Aquarius. And the developments the air era has brought, technology, AI, can feel less, quote, real and harder to grab onto. But air is one of the 4 elements of physical reality alongside fire, earth, and water. Air might feel less, quote, real because it's invisible. We can't see air. Yet air is a conductor. It carries the waves that make electricity, broadcasting, and the internet possible. When we communicate and exchange with others, nothing tangible changes hands. We're not planting a tree, we're not building a wall, yet that exchange matters. The idea we share, the connections we make are pretty much real. But this air dimension or reality is different from the earth-water reality. We've come from when Neptune was in Pisces and Pluto in Capricorn. I'm going to read that again. But this air dimension or reality is different from the earth-water reality we've come from when Neptune was in Pisces and Pluto in Capricorn. In that era, the physical product was the real thing. We'd go on Amazon and buy something we could hold, unwrap, and put on a shelf. In the new air era, which we'll be living in for the next 200 years, the new, quote, real is the immaterial, the abstract, the invisible network, the idea, the connection. And this can be disorienting for most of us, at least in the first phase, which brings us to the big buzzword in the room, AI. AI, Gemini's evil twin. Oh, kind of interesting that Google has named their chatbot Gemini, just as we enter this particular place. There are, as we settle into the new era, it's becoming increasingly clear that AI is not going anywhere. Some love it, some hate it, most have mixed feelings. There are undeniable benefits to AI technologies, developments in research, medicine, education, and areas that were previously less accessible to many of us, translation, legal advice, or creative tools. The democratization of expertise is real and meaningful. But there's one thing using AI for research or medical queries, and quite another there's one thing using AI for research or medical queries, and quite another using it as your voice. From YouTube videos to emails to social media, it has become increasingly difficult to distinguish what's authentic and what's not. I know it's been very unsettling to see YouTubers that their likeness and their voice has been captured and programmed and used as an AI for some commercials. So I've been made aware of this. Now, if you ever see me in any kind of commercial hawking anything or trying to get you to do this or that to send me money, that ain't me. Let me just say that right now, because I don't do that kind of thing. I'm not interested in that. That's what none of this is about, making money for me. It's by the same token, there's been an awful lot of YouTube people that have had their followers be contacted and say it was the person they're following and I don't do that. I don't charge for any of the like readings or BQH sessions. I don't charge for things. It's not about that for me. So don't be taken to the cleaners by somebody claiming to be me. At any rate, yeah, from YouTube videos to emails to social media, it has become increasingly difficult to distinguish what's authentic and what's not. And with Uranus ingress into Gemini, the sign of self-expression and communication, authentic communication will become the defining tension of the next 7 years. Sure, Saturn conjunct Neptune early this year has something to do with the blurring of lines between physical reality, which is Saturn, and what's not operating under the same rules of physics, Neptune. Reality has been getting slippery, isn't it, though? Because there's an awful lot of things that are being put forth as real. Nothing is what it appears to be in this moment of now, as far as I'm concerned. But there's one peculiar way of using AI that's becoming increasingly uncomfortable, no matter what your relationship is with AI. That is no longer knowing whether we are communicating with a real person or a script, whether that's someone's genuine self or their AI alter ego. Well, again, I have not, nor will I ever agree for my likeness. Now, here's the caveat though. If you have a YouTube channel and you use Zoom, that likeness has already been captured. And I'm probably 90% sure that somewhere in the agree to participate, I probably already agreed that they have my permission to do that. But let me just go on the record to say, no, you don't. No, you don't. And I don't want that. At any rate, just reach out to me, consciousconversationscentral@gmail.com, and ask me. I'll tell you. Okay, so yeah. Gemini is the sign of the twins. In myth, Castor and Pollux were twin brothers who took turns between two worlds, one in the realm of the living and the other in the underworld. They were never both in the same place. When we are using AI as a substitute for our own voice and identity, we simply can't be both us and AI at the same time. The Gemini either or Castor Pollux Jekyll Hyde dynamic gets activated. We're either ourselves and we communicate as we've always done, or we put the script on, which means we are no longer ourselves. The two versions can coexist, but can't be on at the same time. This duality, while confusing and uncomfortable to navigate at first, will eventually help us better understand who we are, which part of us is really us. Paradoxically, Gemini's shadow twin may end up making us more authentic, more distinct, more genuinely ourselves than we were before, because we now have a mirror, the alter ego that reflects back at us. But to get there, we have 7 years of experimentation ahead and the slow learning that there are no shortcuts to freedom, not even when it comes to Uranus. Uranus and Saturn, freedom is earned. Whether we use progress and AI to free ourselves or enslave ourselves is entirely up to us and to our own relationship with Saturn. Yes, Saturn. Uranus, preceding planet, and its necessary foundation. Saturn is the guardian of reality, the last planet visible to the naked eye. Saturn represents the effort we put in so we can achieve long-lasting results in the real world. If we want to become a doctor, we go and study medicine, and that is hard. If we want to figure out how to use a tool properly, we have to sit with it, try things out, get frustrated, and keep going. If we want to make an important purchase, we have to save money, and that means saying no to more immediate gratifications. If we do Saturn first, then Uranus, the planet that liberates what Saturn built, comes as the natural next step, bringing with it a freedom that is authentic and genuinely earned. But if we skip Saturn and use Uranus or AI to cheat on our exams, ouch, write a proposal quickly without taking the time to understand what the client actually needs or perform expertise we haven't yet developed, then that's not progress. That is alienation from life and from our own path. Plagiarism, shortcuts, cutting corners have all been here before AI. But as the natural order of the planets reminds us, the only way to Uranus is through Saturn. Of course, using AI to automate tasks that don't require learning, don't build skill, and don't improve our lives in any meaningful way, that's entirely on brand with Uranus' gift of progress. Outsource the copy paste work. Oh, yes, please. But many times, what appears to be a time saving shortcut is actually robbing us of the process of learning and becoming. Uranus, no shortcuts to freedom. The difference between arriving at Uranus through Saturn or shortcutting our way there is the difference between real, hard won confidence and an imposter life. Whether we use AI as a substitute for the real us or shave a few years off our age on our dating profiles or perform a version of ourselves we think the world wants to see, we are not showing the world who we really are. And I got to tell you, from my perspective, it seems to me like people are hungry for authenticity. Don't show me who you want to be. Show me who you are. We send authentic signals, and as a result, we send inauthentic signals, and as a result, we end up with inauthentic lives. There's a study from a dating website that found that there are two categories of people on their site, and whether or not they succeed in finding a lasting relationship depended on one thing: how honestly they presented themselves. Oh man, let me just say, that time that my nudges had me on a dating site, I know that what that she just said there is true. People who presented themselves authentically, quirks, flaws, and all, got polarizing reactions. Some people loved their profile, others didn't connect with it at all. Their average rating was lower, but they were far more successful at actually finding the right person because the people who responded to them were responding to the real person. Yeah, I said that early on, actually, on my channel, Conscious Conversation Central. Part of the reason that I wanted to get to know who I was because my 28.5 year marriage was breaking up. And I realized that I didn't even know who I was. How in the hell did I expect him to know who I was, or anyone to know who I was? I didn't know my own likes, dislikes, what I wanted to be when I grew up, all those kind of things. So, how can you expect somebody else to be attracted to what? You don't even know what. Until we are our authentic selves, there's nothing to gravitate toward, only a lie. And how many relationships are built on that? An awful lot of them, I would say to bet. Mine certainly was. And everyone I've ever had, and at some point, I would love to be able to enter into a conscious relationship where the real me and the real you. I think that's why I ask people to reach out if they're drawn, because I want to get to know people on a real level. At any rate, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to digress. Ah, let's see. And yet they were far less successful at finding a real relationship because the signal they sent out wasn't specific enough to attract the right person. When you appeal to everyone, you connect deeply with no one. That's true. And I'm not interested in connecting with everyone. With dating, social media, AI, and everything else, the question is the same. Do we go for the likes or for the connection? I'm interested in the connection. I don't care if you like me or not. Most people don't anyway, so there we have it. Uranus at its highest expression is radical authenticity. It's who we are behind the masks, behind the roles we play, behind the identities we've inherited or constructed to keep ourselves safe. At its best, Uranus in Gemini's goal is to free us from the outdated concepts and inherited scripts that define how we make sense of the world, how we express ourselves, and what we believe we're allowed to say and be. This won't happen overnight. I want to read that again because for some reason I went completely somewhere else just then for that whole paragraph. At its best, Uranus in Gemini's goal is to free us from the outdated concepts and inherited scripts. Yes, well, I know for myself, I've been looking at the programming and conditioning, so you could read that as inherited scripts, because basically, I just, hardly any of what I was told is true. And I think that if you're looking at any part of your life, you might find that to be so as well. So, at its best, Uranus and Gemini's goal is to free us from the outdated concepts and inherited scripts that define how we make sense of the world, how we express ourselves, and what we believe we're allowed to say and be. This won't happen overnight. Uranus will spend 7 years in Gemini, and at first, themes around authenticity and the lack of it, the AI's role in our lives, the blurring of what's real and what's not, will all intensify, forcing us to learn from the discomfort of not yet having the answers. I personally, I feel like that's a good thing. But ultimately, these iterations, trials and errors, contradictions and paradoxes will help us find our own voice more clearly and more freely than before. I think that's true. Uranus in Gemini trine Pluto in Aquarius. One of the most exciting things about the Uranus and Gemini transit is the incoming Uranus-Pluto trine. This is one of the best long-term transits we've had in a long time. Neptune is also sextile Uranus and Pluto, which means that in the coming years, we will have rare windows when all the outer planets are in agreement with each other. Of course, outer planetary transits speak of underlying trends and slow developments. It doesn't mean that if Uranus trines Pluto, our everyday life will automatically feel better. We still have to deal with the moon, Mars, and the rest of the planets doing their thing. Still, when the forces that shape the world are in alignment, things simply work better. The flow of the trine will create openings and momentum that will make it easier for us to do what we need to do. Let's put it like this: whether it's sunny or raining outside, you still have to do the work. But when the sun is out, you're more likely to leave the house. You'll notice more opportunities, do your work better, and simply feel more alive while doing it. This auspicious alignment activates as soon as Uranus enters Gemini and will remain active through 2029. A detailed report on the Uranus trine Pluto transit will follow soon. Oh, and I got a big nudge just then that when that one comes out, I'll be recording it too. And she has here at the very bottom, I will be putting a link to this article in the description box. And if you want to keep up with future transits, make sure you subscribe to AstroButterfly's weekly newsletter. And I don't think you would be at all unhappy, even if you don't understand astrology at all, but you're interested in it, simply exposing yourself to it. This is the way that's happened for me. The more I expose myself to the writings of folks who do know astrology, the more I learn, the more I understand. So that's it for this one. I hope that this has been helpful for you. I would love to hear from you in the comments. Let me know if this has been helpful to you. If you would like, if you have an astrologer that you like to read, please pass them along to me, as long as their work is freely published on the internet. If I get a nudge, I will record it. And I hope that you will move towards that which brings you joy in each moment that presents itself to you. It is just a matter of perspective and your perception of your perspective. Until we meet again, my friends, be well.